I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich, okay? We need to get out there, use your weapons, and rip Washington apart.
Good morning, everyone. It's April 28th, 2018. I'm here at Zero Hedge, and the article is called Bill Gates Warns Millions Could Die If U.S. Doesn't Prepare for Coming Pandemic. And I'm sure his idea of preparing is selling one of his toxic birth rate declining vaccines. Should a deadly pandemic comparable to the 1918 influenza outbreak reach the U.S. in the relatively near future, the U.S. government would be powerless to stop it. And in all likelihood, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans will die. That's the message from a Washington Post interview with Microsoft founder Bill Gates, which touched on many of the same subjects from a talk he gave Friday before the Massachusetts Medical Society. And I'm sorry, but is Bill Gates a fucking doctor or a chemist or anything like that? Why is he all in the fucking medical industry? Where's his credentials for being in that industry? Bill Gates says the U.S. government is falling short in preparing the nation and the world for the significant probability of a large and lethal modern-day pandemic occurring in our lifetimes. And listen, it's not that I don't think one of these pandemics can't happen. Obviously, they can. My problem with this is I've been hearing this shit since I was a little kid. And so far, our modern ways, sanitation, hygiene, washing your hands, all that stuff, seems to be working pretty fucking good. Gates discussed his efforts to convince the Trump administration to set aside more funding for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and to prioritize the creation of a national response plan that would govern how resources are deployed during a pandemic or biological weapons attack. I mean, look at him. He's a total fucking psychopath, man. And Bill Gates, honestly, is one of the people I have serious fucking issue with. He's one of the reasons why I put that intro to my video. During the interview, the billionaire, who appears to have gotten such a touch eccentric in his gray years, confirmed that he had raised the issue of pandemic preparedness with President Trump and that he tried to convince the president that he has a chance to lead on the issue of global health security. Is that it? Let's see. Oh shit. I'm gonna have to start that over. Alright, let's try that again. Let's see, and it's, look, I think that if there's a pandemic, it will be intentionally caused. And it's not, again, it's not that I don't think that a natural one can't happen, because, again, obviously they can. You have the plague, you know, you have that Spanish flu outbreak, and many others. And I've said many times that the longer we go without a pandemic or a asteroid impact or a giant earthquake or Yellowstone erupting, the longer these events are held back, I guess you could say, or the longer they don't happen, with each passing day, those events become more probable. According to Gates, Trump told him to raise these issues with officials at the Health and Human Services Department, the National Institutes of Health, and the Food and Drug Administration. Gates said he also met with H.R. McMaster, who was ousted as National Security Advisor last month, and he hopes to meet with McMaster's successor, John Bolton. He is probably the only one. That said, Bill Gates may have a point. Even this winter's flu season, the worst in years, overwhelmed hospitals, some of which were forced to pitch tents outside the facilities and deploy other emergency combinations. Now, the problem with these flu vaccines, well, there's lots of problems with them, but one of the bigger problems is, how do we know that this last flu season wasn't caused by the flu vaccine? How do we know? Gates, whose Gates Foundation focuses on public health initiative, has shifted his focus in recent years to international pandemic awareness and preparation. To be sure, he's not the only one who believes the developed world is dangerously ill-prepared to beat back such a threat. Gates and his wife, Melinda, have repeatedly warned that a pandemic is the greatest immediate threat to humanity. Experts say the risk is high because new pathogens are constantly emerging and the world is so interconnected. Again, they gotta sell these vaccines. They gotta scare the shit out of you. And I call bullshit. I say if a pandemic happens, it's probably a result of one of their vaccines, of an intentional release of a pathogen, something like that. You have to remember something. The medical industry is responsible for more than 250,000 deaths a year, which dwarfs the amount of people killed by police, and I believe is part of the depopulation agenda. I mean, 250,000 people. I know it don't sound like much in a nation of what, 360 million, something like that, 250,000, but still a lot of fucking people to get killed by one thing, the medical industry. And then you add to that, and look, I attribute the medical deaths to government. They are part of the government. So, many experts agree that the United States remains unprepared for a pandemic or a bioterrorism threat. The government's sprawling bureaucracy, they say, is not nimble enough to deal with mutations that suddenly turn an influenza virus into a particularly virulent strain, as the 1918 influenza did in killing an estimated 50 million to 100 million people worldwide. Now, and that 1918 influenza, the deaths created by that is nothing compared to the deaths implemented or committed by government. And I know I did videos about how bad the flu season was, and it was bad. 40,000 people, you know, that's a good chunk of people, but still. Even this winter's harsh flu season was enough to overwhelm some hospitals. Fortunately, okay, I already covered that. If a highly contagious and lethal airborne pathogen, I already said, why are they repeating shit? So what should the U.S. do according to Gates? The nation needs to prioritize the development of, here we are, better vaccines, including a universal flu vaccine and other treatments, as well as new diagnostic capabilities to help doctors detect and identify a pandemic before it has the opportunity to spread, according to the Microsoft founder. Okay, well, how can you identify something that's not there? If it's not already spread, then it's not a fucking pandemic. In those remarks, Gates highlighted scientific and technical advances in the development of better vaccines, drugs, and diagnostics that he said could revolutionize how we prepare for and treat infectious diseases moving forward. He praised last year's formation of a new global coalition known as the CEPI to create new vaccines for emerging infectious diseases. He also announced a $12 million grand challenge in partnership with the family of Google Inc. co-founder Larry Page to accelerate the development of a universal flu vaccine. I told you. But vaccines, he noted, take time to research, deploy, and generate protective immunity. So we need to investigate in other approaches like antiviral drugs and antibody therapies that can be stockpiled or rapidly manufactured to stop the spread of pandemic diseases or treat people who have been exposed, he said in his speech. Among the advances in these areas are new influenza antiviral recently approved in Japan that Gates said stops the virus in its tracks by inhibiting an enzyme it needs to multiply. Research on antibodies that could protect against a pandemic strain of a virus and a diagnostic test that harnesses the powerful genetic engineering technology known as CRISPR and has the field use potential to check a patient's blood, saliva, or urine for evidence of multiple pathogens. That test could, for example, identify whether someone is infected with Zika, the dengue virus, which have similar symptoms. Excuse me. But even the most cutting-edge remedies are useless without a plan to deploy them, something Gates says the Trump administration recognizes. Oh, man. I know this is a long one, people. My videos lately have been pretty long. Trump and senior administration officials have affirmed the importance of controlling infectious disease outbreaks. But the Center for Disease Control and Prevention is facing a loss of emergency funding provided in the wake of the 2014 Ebola pandemic and has begun to dramatically downsize its epidemic prevention activities in 39 out of 49 countries where disease risks are greatest. Congress provided additional funding in last month's spending bill, but it also directed the administration to come up with a comprehensive plan to strengthen global health security at home and abroad. This could be an important first step if the White House and Congress use the opportunity to articulate and embrace a leadership role for the U.S., Gates said in the speech. No other country, he noted, has the depth of scientific or technical expertise that the United States possesses. That's bullshit. Japan, China, lots and lots of other countries that have all the stuff they just said, the scientific and technical expertise. Now, in the United States, they discourage you from researching things like herbs or the weeds out in your yard or the random plant you come across walking through the woods. They don't want you looking at that stuff. They want you on the pharmaceuticals. While Gates' sense of urgency is admirable, other experts on the likelihood of a global pandemic emerging in the relative near future make Gates look like a Walt Disney-level optimist. We know that it is coming, but we have no way of stopping it, said WHO infectious disease specialist Dr. Sylvie Brand. If you haven't already, now would probably be good as time as any to invest in some surgical masks, unless, of course, Elon Musk is correct with his own doomsday predictions and sentiment. AI-capable killer robots have already bought out the entire inventory. And millions could die if the Second Amendment is repealed. I like looking through some of these comments. They ask, now how would Billy know that? Take my simple, free immunization vaccine and you'll all be saved. Yeah, buddy. Yep. This dude should not be anywhere near the medical industry. He is a eugenicist. He openly advocates for population reduction. And he has the means to make shit happen. And he is one of the people I say should be shipped off to Gitmo. Just my opinion. Hope everyone has a great day. Remember, kill the state before the state kills you.